I remember the exact moment I started doubting her. It wasn't a dramatic discovery or a screaming match. It was the way she laughed too hard, too long at a text she wouldn't let me see. Emily had always been private, but this felt new, guarded, like she was living 2 steps ahead of me, carefully managing the edges of her reality. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Stress from work, inside jokes with coworkers. But the more I tried to ignore it, the more obvious the cracks became. She started staying late. Team deadlines, she'd say, kissing my cheek on her way out the door, leaving behind only the faint scent of that expensive perfume she only used for special occasions. Except now, every day seemed special. I didn't want to believe it. We had history. 17 years, 2 kids, a mortgage, and a golden retriever named Milo. We were the couple others envied, stable, kind, connected. Or so I thought. One night, after she fell asleep, I checked her phone. I'd never done it before. It felt wrong, invasive. But something in my gut pushed my hand forward. What I found wasn't a smoking gun. Just fragments. Messages from someone saved as T. Casual, but coded. Same place? Last time was perfect. You make everything feel lighter. There were no pictures, no explicit details. But I didn't need more. I knew. And once you know, you can't unknow. I sat there in the dark, staring at the woman I'd loved for nearly 2 decades, and I felt nothing. Not yet. Not rage, not sorrow. Just silence. Like the space between thunder and the storm that follows. I didn't wake her. I didn't confront her. I just slipped out of bed and stood in the hallway for a long time, staring at the photos on the wall, our wedding, the kids, birthdays, anniversaries. Smiles I had once believed in. I realized something then. If I exploded now, she'd spin it. Make me the villain. Say I'd invaded her privacy. That I didn't trust her. No. If I was going to confront this, I'd need to do it right. On my terms. Quietly. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preparing. For the truth. Emily's patterns didn't change. That was the first sign she believed she was untouchable. She still made Sunday pancakes, still left Post-its on the fridge that said, "Love you, babe," with a smiley face at the end. Still called me during her lunch break to ask if I needed anything from the store. Her performance was flawless. But now I knew it was exactly that, a performance. I spent the next week observing her like a stranger might. Every glance at her phone, every unscheduled errand, every last-minute meeting she suddenly had to attend. I watched. I listened. I waited. And while I did, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, my old friend Drew. He ran a security consulting firm. Quiet, discreet, no questions asked. We weren't especially close anymore, but I knew I could trust him. I need a tracker, I told him, and someone to follow my wife. Just a few days. There was a pause. Are you sure you want to know? I already know, I said. I just need to make sure no one can say otherwise. Within 2 days, I had what I needed, a slim GPS tag, a private link for real-time movement, and a contact number for a part-time investigator Drew vouched for personally. I slipped the tracker beneath the back bumper of Emily's car while she was in the shower. It took less than 30 seconds. That night, she kissed me goodnight like always. I kissed her back. Then I lay in bed and watched her car's signal blink on the screen of my phone, a tiny blue dot resting quietly in our driveway. By Thursday evening, it moved. She said she was going to a team dinner. It's at that new tapas place. Luis booked it for the whole department. I nodded. Have fun. I even offered to iron her dress shirt while she finished her makeup. She looked radiant. Beautiful, in the same way a fire is. Warm, glowing, and deadly if left unchecked. The blue dot didn't go to the tapas place. It stopped 15 blocks away, at a boutique hotel I'd never seen her enter before. Room 614. She stayed for 2 hours and 11 minutes. When she came home, she smelled like wine and someone else's cologne. She walked through the front door humming. Not loud, not theatrical, just a light, careless melody under her breath like she was still floating in some private dream. They had this garlic shrimp dish that was insane, she said, dropping her purse by the kitchen chair. I'm so full I might explode. I didn't blink. Sounds amazing. She came over, kissed my cheek, and wrapped her arms around my neck from behind as I rinsed dishes in the sink. Her skin was warm. Her tone was honey. But all I could see was room 614. Her hands on someone else. Her eyes closed under a different name. I'm gonna shower, she said, already unbuttoning her top as she headed upstairs. I waited until I heard the water running, then pulled out my phone. I took a screenshot of the tracker log. 6:42 p.m. arrival. 8:53 p.m. departure. I cross-checked the hotel's online map. Room 614 was on the top floor, corner suite. Not exactly a group dinner. The next day, I called in sick to work and followed her. Not physically, I didn't want to be seen. But the PI Drew had connected me with was already parked down the street, camera in hand, zoom lens ready. She left the house at 5:15 p.m., claiming she had a late client consult before a yoga class. Instead, she met the same car in the same parking garage near the hotel. A sleek black sedan. Windows tinted. She got in on the passenger side. The car didn't move for 30 minutes. Then she got out, smiling, fixing her lipstick in the side mirror. She didn't go to yoga. She went straight to a wine bar, met up with 2 girlfriends, and laughed for the next hour like she hadn't just sold a piece of our marriage for a thrill. When she came home that night, she handed me a smoothie. They had a pop-up juice bar outside class. Figured you'd want something healthy. Thanks, I said. That was thoughtful. You okay? She asked, tilting her head. You seem distant lately. I smiled. Just thinking a lot. She touched my face and called me sweet. What she didn't know was that every word she spoke was going into a file that would soon destroy her world. The file was growing timestamps, photos, tracker data, even audio snippets the PI had captured using a directional mic. Each piece of evidence stacked like bricks around the truth she tried to keep hidden. I named the folder Evergreen after the hotel chain where she met him. It felt poetic, something meant to last, now holding the weight of something rotten. Emily had no idea. She hummed while she folded laundry, sent me flirty texts from across the room, and still called me my love when she needed something from the top shelf. That weekend, I pretended to take Milo for a long hike. In reality, I drove to the hotel, walked inside. I wasn't there to confront her. I was there to gather details, to feel the space where it all happened. The lobby was minimal, elegant. A vase of white lilies near the elevators. Calming music piped through hidden speakers. I asked for a brochure. Smiled at the concierge. No suspicion. No alarms. Room 614 had a window that faced west. Sunset light would have poured in right over the bed. I stood in the hallway, staring at the number plate. Cold metal. Still, I didn't knock. I didn't want a scene. I just wanted to see what she'd risked everything for. That night, I started building something new. Not a journal. A presentation. A file that told a story in order. Who, what, where, when. No anger. Just precision. Like a prosecutor preparing for court. But I didn't want to go to court. I wanted her to see herself clearly. No denials. No excuses. Just facts. I planned the reveal carefully. Not yet. But soon. Her birthday was coming up in 6 weeks. She'd already started planning a party. Just family and a few close friends. Keep it simple, she said. Let's just enjoy the people who matter. The irony made my teeth ache. I smiled and agreed. Simple's good. Because on that night, surrounded by all the people who believed she was everything she pretended to be, I'd show her the one gift she could never return. Who she really was. When no one was watching. Emily's birthday plans took shape quickly. Venue booked, menu chosen, group chat created. She buzzed with excitement, listing wine pairings and obsessing over floral arrangements. I just wanted to feel real, she said one night, flipping through decor samples. I almost laughed. The woman living a double life was desperate for something real. I nodded, let her talk. Let her spin herself deeper into the illusion. In the meantime, I fine-tuned the presentation. Slide 1. A title card, simple white text on black. The truth. No embellishment. Just gravity. Slide 2. A timeline of her known client appointments layered over GPS data. Slide 3. Screenshots of her text with T, whom I now knew was Travis Langdon, a regional VP at her firm's partner company. Married. 2 kids. He looked like a man who thought suits were armor and secrets couldn't be traced. Wrong on both counts. The next few slides. Images of them entering and leaving the hotel, holding hands in his car, and a photo of her fixing her blouse in the rearview mirror. There were 30 slides in total. Nothing cruel. Just undeniable. My goal wasn't to humiliate her. It was to remove the mask. The guest list was final by the second week of planning. Her parents, her sister, our neighbors, her boss and wife, a handful of old friends. People who trusted her, admired her. People she smiled for with teeth clenched behind lies. I had a custom invitation printed for her. Matte black, gold trim. The celebration of a lifetime. She cried when she opened it. "You're amazing," she whispered. "I don't deserve you." For the first time in weeks, I agreed with her. But I didn't say it. I just kissed her forehead and poured her a glass of wine. The days ticked down. I double-checked the files, rehearsed what I would say, visualized the moment when silence would fall over the room like a dropped glass. Emily posted countdown stories on social media, made playlists, practiced her speech. "I might say something about being grateful," she told me, scribbling notes in her journal. For love, for second chances. She didn't know. Those chances were already gone. 2 weeks before the party, something shifted. Emily became more affectionate, almost aggressively so. Morning kisses lingered. She texted me pet names she hadn't used in years. One night, she even suggested we book a cabin for just the two of us after her birthday. You and me, no phones, no distractions. Let's reset. I knew what this was. Not guilt. Fear. Somewhere inside her, she must have sensed the air had changed. Maybe she caught a glimpse of the way I watched her differently. Or maybe Travis was pulling away. I wouldn't know for sure until later, but the signs were clear. She was trying to rebuild a bridge she hadn't realized she burned to the foundation. I went along with it. Held her hand when she offered it. Let her rest her head on my chest while we watched shows she barely paid attention to. Each time, I added more to the file. More moments that would seem horrifying in hindsight. The night before her party, she stayed up late wrapping tiny jars of homemade jam as thank you gifts. "It's so silly," she said with a laugh. "But I want people to leave feeling like they were really part of something." I took one from her hand. Strawberry vanilla. My favorite. "You put a lot into this," I said. "You're incredible." She smiled. Sincerely, maybe for the first time in weeks. "You really think so?" "Yeah," I said. "You're unforgettable." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the final presentation open on my laptop. I synced it to a private HDMI transmitter I'd already hidden beneath the party venue's smart screen. I'd rented the space myself, booked the AV setup, told her it was all being handled by the manager she'd hired. Every detail had been placed exactly where I needed it. When I closed the laptop, I felt calm. Not numb, not vindictive, just ready. I'd tried every path: direct conversation, observation, even forgiveness. But you can't reason with a mask. You have to remove it. And tomorrow, in front of the world she built, on smiles and curated memories, I would. The venue was perfect. Industrial chic, warm lighting, just enough seating to make everyone feel close without being crowded. Emily arrived 30 minutes before the guests, glowing in a satin emerald dress that shimmered when she moved. "You did all this?" she asked, stepping inside with wide eyes. "I just wanted it to feel like you," I said. She kissed me, fingers lightly gripping the back of my neck. "You've been so good to me. I don't know what I'd do without you." That's what made it beautiful. She meant it. Or at least, she thought she did. Her guilt had fully turned into gratitude now. Warped, misdirected, but sincere. The guests arrived in waves. Hugs, toasts, laughter. She floated through the room like a starlet. Her boss clinked glasses with her. Her sister gave her a framed photo of them from childhood. People called her kind, selfless, brilliant. Every compliment landed like a blade. I stood off to the side and watched her shine. And then, just before cake, she tapped a glass for attention. "I don't want to get too emotional," she said, smiling into the crowd. "But I've been through a lot of change this year. And I've never felt more seen, more supported, more." Her eyes found mine. "Love." She looked down for a second, teary. "I've made mistakes, little ones, dumb ones. But tonight, I'm grateful for second chances. For people who choose to stay." A few people clapped softly. Her sister wiped her eye. "To love," Emily said, raising her glass. "To real love." That was my cue. I stepped forward, smiling. "Before we cut the cake," I said, "I actually put something together. Just a little tribute to the woman we're all here to celebrate. Cheers." A few ahs. Emily beamed. "Oh my God, what did you do?" "Just watch," I said, reaching for the remote. The screen flickered. Music faded. And slide 1 appeared. The truth. The room fell silent. Slide 2, a timeline. Slide 3, a blurry image of her entering the hotel. Gasps. Slide 4, a message from Travis. "Counting the minutes until I can kiss you again." Then photo after photo, receipt after receipt. Laughter replaced by silence. Cheers turned into stillness. Emily stood frozen, eyes wide, a glass dangling from limp fingers. Her boss turned to look at her. Her sister looked away. She opened her mouth, but the mirror was already reflecting. The silence wasn't shattered by screaming. It cracked under the weight of disbelief. Emily's hand trembled as she reached for the remote, but I gently took it back before she could touch it. "Let it finish," I said quietly. "Everyone deserves the full picture." The room remained still. Slide by slide, her dual life unraveled in real time. Hotel visits, overlapping alibis, a calendar entry marked client dinner, aligned perfectly with a receipt from a boutique suite 2 cities over. And finally, the message I'd saved for the end, a handwritten note from Travis, scanned from a hotel notepad. "You make me forget he even exists." Emily's breath hitched like someone had punched her in the ribs. She turned to me, eyes glassy. "Please, can we just talk?" she whispered. "This isn't the way, isn't it?" I said, softly enough that only those closest could hear. "Because this feels exactly like how you did it. Quietly. Rehearsed. Right in front of everyone." Her sister stepped forward, lips parted. "Emily, is this real?" Emily didn't answer. She couldn't. Amanda stood, shook her head, and muttered, "Unbelievable." Her boss had already taken out his phone. The room was dissolving into whispers, stares, and quick glances toward the exit. Emily tried to speak. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But it did," I replied, my voice even. "You made the choices. I'm just sharing them. We have kids," she said, desperate now. "You're blowing up our whole life. You did that when you chose him over and over again." She tried to step forward, but I turned to the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I'm sorry you had to see this, but I'm not sorry for telling the truth." I disconnected the slideshow, closed the laptop, and walked toward the door. No more words. No last glance. Behind me, I heard a sob, then another. Emily was crumbling, and for the first time, I wasn't going to catch her. Outside, the air felt sharp, clean. The truth had landed, but the reckoning had only just begun. I didn't go home that night. I drove to a friend's cabin 3 hours north, no signal, no distractions, just silence and pine trees thick enough to muffle every memory. I needed space, not from the fallout, but from the performance. The party wasn't the climax. It was the ignition. The following morning, I turned my phone on. 97 messages, 23 missed calls. Some from people who had been at the party, some from people who'd heard about it within hours. Emily had texted 14 times, each message more fractured than the last. "Please, we need to talk. You're ruining everything. I'll do anything. Don't take the kids from me." The guilt trip, the panic, the bargaining. All of it came in waves, like she was drowning and trying to pull me under with her. I didn't respond. Not yet. Not until I'd finished what I started. While the party shattered her social credibility, it hadn't touched the rest of her carefully guarded world, her job, her polished community image, the professional allies who hadn't been invited that night. That's where the final act would play. Before I left town, I visited a print shop. I'd already prepped the documents, a condensed version of the presentation, facts only, no embellishments. Included was a notarized timeline of events, a letter addressed to her firm's ethics board, and another to the head of the regional partners council she served on. I mailed them separately. Clean, precise, truth with a paper trail. When I returned home, the house was quiet. She was gone, likely at her sister's. I found a note on the table. "I'll give you space. Please let me fix this. I still love you." I folded it in half, placed it in the shredder, and watched it dissolve like everything else she'd written over the past year. That night, I called my lawyer. "Let's begin the formal split," I said. "You have everything you need." "You sure?" he asked. "It's going to get messy." It already was. Now it'll just be honest. I turned off my phone, sat down on the back porch, and watched the wind move through the trees. She thought the worst was over, but exposure was just the beginning. 3 days later, the cracks became collapse. Emily's firm issued a statement, sterile, clinical. She was stepping away indefinitely to address personal matters. Translation: the board had reviewed the documents, verified the timestamps, and realized the clean-cut, ambitious strategist they'd championed was now a liability. Her name was removed from their public website by sunset. Amanda texted me. "She's blaming you. Says you twisted everything." I responded with a single line. "I only showed the mirror." The next morning, Emily tried calling again. I ignored it. She showed up at the house 2 hours later, eyes swollen, hair pulled back like she hadn't had time to pretend. "You win," she said at the doorway. "This isn't a game," I replied, not stepping aside. "But if it were, you made the first move." She didn't argue. She just asked, "Can I come in?" I let her. Not out of kindness. Out of calculation. I wanted to hear what her version of this story sounded like, now that it was shattered. She sat on the couch, clasped her hands like she was preparing for a sermon. "I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything. But this destruction, it's not helping anyone." "Truth isn't destruction," I said. "It's just uncomfortable. You could have come to me," she whispered. "You could have yelled. You could have left. But this public exposure, you mean the kind of exposure I never had the luxury of choosing when you were sleeping with someone behind my back." She flinched. "I lost everything." "No," I said. "You're finally seeing what you built fall apart. That's different." Her voice cracked. "What about the kids? They'll be fine. Because they'll grow up knowing that honesty matters. That consequences aren't cruelty." She looked at the floor. "Is there anything I can do?" "Yes," I said. "Leave. And don't come back unless it's through your attorney." I stood. She didn't. She sat there for a few more seconds, like she thought maybe I'd soften. I didn't. Eventually, she rose and walked out, slow and shaking. I closed the door behind her, locked it, and exhaled. The storm wasn't loud anymore. It was quiet. And for the first time, the silence felt clean. She didn't come back. Not the next day. Not the next week. There was no dramatic confrontation, no last-minute plea at the door. Just distance. Wide, necessary, and exactly what I needed. My lawyer reached out to hers. The response was formal, restrained. She wasn't contesting anything. Not the house. Not the custody arrangement. Not the timeline. There was shame between every line of her proposal. Shame and fear. Her sister called once. Not to defend her, just to say, "I don't know who she became, but I hope you find peace." I told her I already had. That weekend, I cleared the bedroom, boxed up everything she'd left behind, jewelry, books, scarves that still smelled like her perfume. I sealed it all without hesitation. Then, I redecorated. New linens. New art. A new lamp with a soft gold hue that felt like quiet warmth. The old bedroom had been a stage. This one would be a sanctuary. I went through my files one last time. Evergreen. The truth. Timeline of events. Everything was archived and backed up twice. But I didn't need it anymore. I'd already won. Not by destroying her, but by refusing to let her rewrite the ending. I emailed Drew. "It's done," I said. "Thank you for helping me keep my dignity." His reply, "You didn't just keep it. You reclaimed it." Emily posted something on her private Instagram a few days later. A vague quote over a muted photo of the ocean. "Sometimes we break things just to see what's inside." No comments. No likes. I didn't even screenshot it. I didn't need to. Her reflection was already burned into my memory. Who she became when no one was watching. Who she tried to pretend she wasn't. The house was quiet now, but not empty. It felt like mine again. Each wall reclaimed. Each silence earned. She chose the mirror. I chose the door. And on the other side was peace. Life didn't explode after Emily. It unfolded. Quietly. Like a bruise finally fading beneath the skin. The kids adjusted faster than I thought they would. I was honest with them, measured, age-appropriate, but truthful. "Mom made choices that hurt people," I told them. "But we still love you both the same. That will never change." They asked if she was coming back. I said no. They didn't ask again. In time, their world reshaped itself around the new rhythm. Weekends with her. School days with me. No shouting, no courtroom battles. Just the slow, careful untangling of lives that had been too tightly wound. I didn't date. Not because I was afraid. Because I wasn't ready to give anyone that level of access to me again. I filled my time with real things, small things. Fixing the squeaky porch step. Learning how to cook something that didn't come frozen. Reading again. Not to pass time, but to be still inside something other than my own thoughts. Emily's name faded from the conversations. At work, people stopped asking. At family gatherings, her absence was no longer a topic. It was just a fact. Like the weather. Or a photo removed from the wall. Every now and then, someone would bring up the party. They'd ask, "How did you stay so calm?" I'd always answer the same, because I'd already let her go long before I showed anyone else. That's what most people don't understand about betrayal. The pain isn't in the discovery, it's in the pretending afterward. The long days of acting like everything is fine, just to protect someone who's already burned the bridge you're still standing on. that pretending is what kills you. So I stopped. I started over. Slowly. I kept the house. Got a new dog after Milo passed. Took a trip alone, just to prove I could. No grand gestures. No poetic closure. Just freedom, one breath at a time. Because survival doesn't come with fireworks. It comes quietly. When you finally decide to stop carrying someone else's lies. It had been nearly a year when I saw her again. A grocery store. Random. Mundane. I turned the corner of the produce aisle and there she was, holding a bag of oranges, hair tucked beneath a wool hat, makeup barely visible. She looked older. Not in the lines on her face, but in her posture. Like gravity had found her. She saw me instantly. Froze. Then offered a cautious smile. I nodded, polite but distant. She stepped forward. "Hi," she said. "Hi. You look good." "Thanks." The silence after that stretched awkwardly. She cleared her throat. "I, heard about Milo." "Yeah," I said. "He went peacefully. He was such a good dog." I didn't respond. Not to be cold. Just because there was nothing else to add. She stared at the floor. "I've been in therapy," she said quietly, trying to make sense of all of it. "Good," I replied. Another pause. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" It wasn't a challenge. It was soft. Vulnerable. I looked her in the eye. "No, I don't hate you. I just don't recognize you." She nodded slowly. "That's fair." A few more seconds passed, and then she smiled again, smaller this time, sadder. "Take care of yourself, okay? You too." And that was it. She walked away, back into the aisle, back into her life. I stood there for a moment, letting the weight of her presence slide off my shoulders. I wasn't angry. I wasn't triggered. I didn't ache. Seeing her was like spotting a house you once lived in. Familiar, but no longer home. That night, I went for a run. Not because I needed to escape anything, but because I finally had the energy to move forward without dragging chains behind me. I came home, showered, poured a drink, and stood on the back porch. The stars were out, unobstructed. I breathed in the cold night air, smiled to myself, and realized for the first time, in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was free. By the time the 1-year mark passed, I didn't flinch at the memory of her. No bitterness. No romanticized what-ifs. Just a clean understanding of what had been, and what would never be again. I marked the date by doing something she once told me I'd never have the nerve to try. I stood on stage at a storytelling event. Nothing dramatic. Just local. A room full of strangers who paid to hear real people tell the truth. My story wasn't about infidelity. Not directly. It was about masks. About the quiet pain of pretending, and what it means to let go before you shatter. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The people in that room didn't need details. They recognized the feeling. When I finished, the applause was quiet but sincere. Afterwards, a woman approached me. Late 30s, maybe. Kind eyes. "That story," she said, "was mine. Just with different wallpaper." I smiled. I think it's more people's story than we realize. We sat outside for a while, under string lights, in the low hum of conversation. Her name was Cora. Divorced. Smart. Funny in a calm, sharp way. She didn't ask what had happened to me. She already knew. Not the facts, just the texture of it. The way your voice changes when you've spoken the truth and survived the echo. We didn't exchange numbers. Just a handshake. A moment. I went home feeling more connected than I had in months. Not because I'd met someone, but because I'd spoken without flinching. I updated the last page of Evergreen. Not with evidence. Not with a new name. Just a sentence. I didn't lose myself in her betrayal. I found the part of me she never bothered to see. Then I encrypted the file, backed it up, and deleted the local copy. I didn't need it anymore. The story had been told. The wound had closed. The reckoning had passed. And the life ahead was mine. To build. Without her shadows. The public exposure came quietly, but thoroughly. A podcast, ironically the same one Emily used to listen to while jogging, aired an anonymous submission titled, "When the Party Ended Everything." It wasn't my voice. I hadn't sent it. But someone who had been at that birthday party did. The retelling was surgical, captivating, and word-for-word accurate. They changed names, but the skeleton was there. A husband uncovering infidelity, a curated slideshow revealed at a celebration, a woman unraveling before friends and family. Emily never commented publicly, but within a week, the episode had over 40,000 streams. The local news picked it up under the headline, "Real Life Betrayal Sparks Viral Podcast Confession." Friends began to connect the dots. Former coworkers whispered. Her social circle, already thin, vanished. Her sister stopped defending her. Amanda deleted every post they'd ever appeared in together. Then the letters started. People Emily had once belittled, people she manipulated or cast aside, wrote to me, quietly, thanking me for making the lie visible, for reminding them they weren't crazy, that their instincts were right. But I didn't gloat. I didn't reply. Because the exposure wasn't about me. It was about the vacuum her truth had created and how many people finally saw what I'd seen in silence for months. One afternoon, I walked past a bookstore and saw a journal in the window. The cover said, "Let the lie collapse on its own." I bought it. I didn't write in it. I didn't need to. It was enough to own something that spoke my truth without needing to explain it again. Emily never reached out again. Not after the podcast. Not after the aftermath. She was busy managing the version of herself that was no longer accepted. Her life hadn't just cracked, it had shifted entirely. And while she stumbled to reassemble a shattered identity, I was already living in the freedom of a truth that needed no stage. Revenge, real revenge, isn't loud. It isn't fire and fury. It's quiet, clean. The kind of move that doesn't beg for attention, it commands silence. I planned it over months, calmly, like a man laying bricks on a path only he can see. It wasn't about hurting her. That part had already happened. It was about creating something she couldn't touch. The final piece was the foundation she once controlled, our home. She'd left her name on the deed out of inertia, not realizing I'd already taken the steps to untangle us legally. I waited until the timing was perfect, until she was knee-deep in image rehab, halfway into launching a new consulting business she'd pitched online. Then I filed the final motion, cleanly transferring the title and notifying her accountant of the implications. Her credit took the hit. Her planned funding collapsed. She called one last time. "You didn't need to do that," she said, trying to sound composed. "No," I replied. "I didn't. But I wanted you to finally feel what it's like to lose something you thought you could control forever." "What do you even want from me?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "That's the revenge." She didn't respond. The call ended. So did that version of us. That night, I lit a fire in the backyard. Quiet. Controlled. I fed it the last printed copy of the Evergreen file. One page at a time. Gone. Then I poured a glass of wine and sat alone, not with grief, not with rage, but with closure. And peace. Peace so complete it didn't need a witness. I looked up at the night sky and smiled. She had her affair. She had her secrets. She had her moment. But I had the ending. The kind of ending that rewrites everything that came before it. And now, finally, I was free.